The Buckeyes, after falling asleep at the wheel for a little bit, especially on offense, pulled out a win over Maryland 37-17. I do feel like Maryland is owed a good bit of credit, so credit to the Terrapins for showing up with just a little bit of an edge, a bit of an energy that Ohio State definitely didn't have initially. The entire first quarter was pretty much all Maryland, dominated by the Terrapins. On Ohio State's first drive, you had a 3-and-out, followed by that weird botched snap on the punt that made it look like it was a designed fake punt, but it did, when you looked at the replay, just kind of looked like it was a bad snap that just went right to the up back, set Maryland up in great field position. There was an amazing touchdown catch by Caden Prather for Maryland on their first possession, but to me what was especially concerning in the early goings for Ohio State was just how easy it was for the Terrapins to move the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. When Ohio State was on defense, Maryland was getting some really good yardage through the run game, just some that ground and pound for Maryland seemed to be working out pretty well in the early goings. And then on the other side of the ball, Kyle McCord was facing a little bit of pressure. Some of that was self-created by Kyle McCord, kind of maybe moving around when he didn't necessarily need to. But this offensive line for Ohio State has had its issues. Ohio State also didn't really have much of a dynamic run game with this offensive line. Maybe that has to do with Trey Hendrickson missing, but it was noted out in the broadcast that these offensive linemen weren't really getting to the second level all that well, leaving Maryland's linebackers pretty much with free reign to just move however they wanted to. So that was a little bit of something that was frustrating watching early on, especially considering that we've known this is an issue for a while now. It was kind of bad to see Maryland being able to do what they were able to do against the Buckeyes in that way. But the sequence that started to turn the tables in the Buckeyes' favor was in the second quarter. Maryland was up 10-0 at this point. Maryland had a 3rd and 5 deep in their own territory, and then you had Taulia Tagovailoa throwing a pick six to Josh Proctor. Now, Maryland still had a 10-7 lead following this play, but it did seem to settle the game down in terms of Maryland having all of the momentum. Ohio State's offense still remained fairly stagnant, but they did manage to tie it up at 10 before halftime. You had some really bad clock management by the Terrapins at the end of the first half. They definitely could have gotten at least 3 more points, but they threw a pass and when that stayed in bounds when they didn't have any more timeouts and the clock ran out. There were a couple of strange coaching choices, like going for it on 4th and 1 for Maryland when they were in the red zone. Could have gone up by 10 at that point in the game, so you figured with that field goal and the field goal at the end of the first half, Maryland could have been up 16-10 at the end of one. But Maryland did get the ball back at the start of the second half, and they went 9 plays, 75 yards on a Taulia Tagovailoa touchdown run. So they got a nice long drive. Looked like Maryland had come out and punched Ohio State in the mouth to start the second half. Flirting with panic mode again, in my opinion, as far as Ohio State might actually mess around and lose this game. But the Buckeyes did answer with a touchdown drive of their own. Kyle McCord hitting Julian Fleming to get them down to the 4. Could have been a touchdown on a better throw to Julian Fleming. There was a similar scenario with Marvin Harrison Jr. on Ohio State's field goal drive, where if Kyle McCord hits Marvin Harrison Jr. in stride, he walks in for a touchdown. Same here with this Julian Fleming play. And that's something that's going to have to be improved upon, obviously, but I do think that Kyle McCord, as the game went on, got better and better with hitting guys in stride. You have Chip Trainum finishing off that drive to tie it again. Then Ohio State got another interception, and the Buckeyes turned that into a field goal, which was only a 3-point lead for Ohio State, but really that is all that they needed. The defense would remain stout. Kyle McCord finding a wide-open Cade Stover on a very well-executed fake. Cade Stover wide open, runs into the end zone. A Maryland player did have a chance to catch up with him, but he unfortunately got injured on that play. And then Ohio State goes up 10, and the game pretty much got out of hand from there. You had Marvin Harrison Jr. catching the same touchdown pass twice, essentially, after the first one was called back on a pretty spotty illegal motion call on Xavier Johnson. The final score ends up being 37-17, 20-point game. But don't let the final score fool you. This game was way too close for way too long, for my comfort at least. Again, I understand this year's Maryland team probably better than the Maryland teams that we're used to, but Maryland has given Ohio State fits no matter what their situation has been in the past few years. This is the kind of start that, that gets you smoked by teams like Penn State and Michigan again, or really any other team that if they're having a heater, they're having a huge game on offense. If the Ohio State's offense starts like that again, it might, they might not be able to dig themselves out of the holes they create for themselves if they do start like that. Now, the silver lining in that is that this Ohio State defense did keep the game within reach. They were the catalyst for the momentum swing. That pick six definitely was huge. Maryland was kind of humming on offense up until that point. Then that pick six happened, and the defense really settled in. In the past couple seasons, the defense has been Ohio State's Achilles heel Achilles heel for them. If there was one unit that's of the team that's going to let them down, it would have been the defense. However, this year it kind of seems like it's the opposite, where the defense is keeping them in games where the offense is kind of sputtering to start. Maybe they need to make those second half adjustments. They certainly seem to prove well against Maryland once the second half started. The Ohio State offense started to click like we expected them to at the beginning of this game. And I know a win's a win. This doesn't derail the season at all in any way. But if you extrapolate how this game started to, again, some of the more marquee opponents on the schedule, like Penn State and Michigan, that does make me a little nervous, because we saw this last season where Ohio State would start a bit slow against inferior competition, but they would pull out a win in the end. And it turns out when you played the tougher teams on your schedule, that ended up not working out so well for Ohio State last year. They got away with it against Maryland because, again, the defense was pretty good today. I can't complain much about the defense. Maybe you don't want to see them give up some of the early yardage that they did, but once it got down to making the plays that they had to make, that pick six, again, huge for the game. Maryland kind of was starting to go crazy with the momentum before that pick six, and then ever since then, really not a whole lot going for Maryland besides that first drive in the second half. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you thought about this game down in the comments below. Leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it. Thank you for watching if you did make it this far into the video, and I will see you at the next one.